Welcome. Thanks for coming today on this beautiful 70-degree weather day, and you're in here with instead of enjoying the beautiful weather on your lunch hour. So thank you. Hopefully this will be totally worth your time. My name is Kathy Moxley, and today our topic is Deskersise, fitness for busy professionals. I'll tell you just a couple things about myself, and then I want to see if any of you have any questions you want to maybe ask me right now so we can keep it in mind as the seminar goes through. Anything that you're definitely dying to find out today, or something you're hoping to be inspired about, anything that I might be able to address along the way. I am, by training, an exercise physiologist. That's what my master's degree is in. I started in corporate fitness at Marriott a number of years ago, and then transitioned into corporate wellness. I was the manager of Marriott's corporate wellness program for about 12 years until my third child was born. He's now 5. So once I got more and more entrenched in the mom arena, I started focusing, kind of shifted from focusing on busy professionals who didn't have time to be fit to busy moms who didn't have time to be fit. And so I kind of do a little bit of both now. I wrote a book last year called The Busy Mom's Ultimate Fitness Guide. But like I said, I think that people who are busy professionals have a lot in common with busy moms, or busy anybody, really. So I think what it comes down to is that there's a lot of information that we're all eager to learn, but there's also a lot of areas where we might apply the phrase, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it. So then there's that motivation, inspiration aspect as well. So some people need more of one, some people are really searching for more of the other, and some people need a little bit of both. So does anybody have anything that they were coming here today really hoping to learn or to be inspired about? Anything they want to just let me know about before we start? Yeah?
Somehow to have some methodology to keep the circulation going.
Method,
so the
okay.
body parts and the brain don't,
And I'm supposed to
get interrupted with so many variety of tasks and all with deadlines, that you're kind of in a constant state of duress, so something that would be help with circulation, but also somehow calming at the same time.
stress relief as well. I'm supposed to repeat every question for the microphone for our friends who are watching via webcast. The question was ways to increase circulation and relieve stress, considering all you have going on in a day. Is that kind of a nonstop? Anything else? No? That's the one? Okay. Well, as we go along, though, please feel free to raise your hand if you have a question throughout the seminar, because I want to be pretty informal on how we run this for the next hour. And let's get going. So I will start with my magic pill, which I wish I hadn't. Actually, somebody who walked in here and said how I could help them lose 40 pounds today. So that's part of my magic pill, okay? It's not really on here. It's not. That's not. We could add that bullet point on here. Imagine that I was dispensing a pill that would lower your risk of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, would increase your bone density, which of course decreases your risk of osteoporosis. It helps your heart and lungs, strengthens your muscles and bones, improves your flexibility, raises a good kind of cholesterol, reduces back pains, reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, helps you sleep better, all that other stuff. Who wants this pill? All right, if you didn't raise your hand, why didn't you raise your hand? Right? Don't we all want this pill? Yes. Don't we all want this? Yes, we want this pill. If you looked ahead in mine, did you look ahead in your handout so you know what's coming next, right? Okay. Well, there's always a catch. This pill does exist, but it's only dispensed in single daily doses, and it's in a no-car zone, no driving zone. You have to walk a half mile to get it and a half mile to get back every day. But you'd be guaranteed this. So, would you do it?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah. Most days.
Most days. You know what? And that's okay. What if that was part of the pill? That you really only had to take the pill maybe at least 5 days a week. Okay? Well, so what if the pill that I was dispensing wasn't actually doing anything, and it was the 15-minute walk to and from that was actually giving you the benefit? Okay, that's where this whole magic pill story is, to try to get us thinking about things a little bit differently, because did you know where I was going with that? Of course, right? Okay, but the reason why I like to use that kind of story to illustrate a point is that for many Americans, we put more faith into a pill than we do in the capabilities of our own body. Isn't that true? I mean, all we have to do is look at all the infomercials that we see in the magazine ads for GNC or all these other places and all these herbs and all these special things that we think, oh, I'll take this and this will give me more energy. Ginkgo biloba, or this year or last year it was, I don't know, whatever. I don't even follow them anymore. Because, there are 4 really important keys to energy and circulation, and none of them involve taking pills. One of them does involve exercise. The next big one, and it's a teeny bit off topic, but I'll just share it with you because it's quick 4 things, is hydration. Water. Water is energy. The more hydrated we are, the more energetic we will feel, period. So exercise and water and sleep and stress, reduction of stress. Those are the 4 biggest keys to energy that there are. But again, as Americans, sometimes we don't want to fool with that stuff. We just want to take a pill. So again, today's a little bit about mindset stuff. So if exercise really is the magic pill, then why aren't we all doing it? I mean, if it's that simple. So is it that simple? Oopsie. It's the dog ate my homework slide. So why don't we all exercise? Well, is it no time, too tired, too boring, too hard, don't need it, too old, don't like to sweat? It's not convenient. I saw Jerry Seinfeld live one time at the Leukemia Ball, and he had this whole bit on exercise, and it was really, really funny. He was like saying, oh, I want to exercise, but I just don't feel like exercising today. Like, you want to exercise in theory, but every specific time it is time to actually go do it, nah, I think I'd rather do this. So it's how do we make the connect here? How do we actually make it happen? In fact, that's the subtitle of my book, The Busy Mom's Ultimate Fitness Guide, is Get Motivated and Find the Solution That Works for You. How can you find a solution long term that you can make this part of your lifestyle? How can you make exercise be part of your lifestyle, like brushing your teeth or like whatever else in your life is non-negotiable? In all of our lives, we have some things that are negotiable that happen, or that might happen and might not happen, and we have some things that happen no matter what. And for everybody, that list is a little bit different. So how do we get exercise to that category? What we're going to talk about next is how we can get things to that category is the stages of change. How many of you are familiar with this model of the stages of change? This was created by a psychology professor by the name of James Prochaska. And I was fortunate enough to be on a task force with him a few years ago, and got to know him personally, and that was exciting for me. I had to explain to my husband and to my friends, no, this is a really, really amazing opportunity to get to actually meet this person in person. And they didn't know who he was. But there's these 5 stages of change that are very well known in the psychology world. And it really talks about how any change that we want to make, whether it be to start exercising, quit smoking, or get our finances in order, that we go through a mental process of being ready to make that change. And it's not as simple as the Nike quote, just do it. That a lot of times we're really hard on ourselves about not doing it, when in fact we really need to just find out where we are in these mental stages, and our only goal is to get to the next step, the next stage in our readiness to make the change. So that we really shouldn't be expecting ourselves to be ready to do it until we're at least in the I will planning stage. And then the next goal is to do it. But the very first mental stage is I can't or I won't. That's, in fact, I don't think any of you are in that stage, because if you were, would you even be here, right? So those are those people who fall into that category, and you can be in different stages for different health habits, but are not even, it's not even on the radar. They're not even thinking about it. But people who are thinking about it, like, I kind of been wanting to exercise, I kind of know I should, but not really making any concrete plans. So if that's where you are, then the next step is just to kind of start thinking about it in more serious ways about planning. Like, well, what would I do? Would I join a gym? Would I exercise at home? Well, and start really thinking in a problem-solving approach. And then when you're really planning on it, then that's when you start worrying about actually doing it. And obviously maintenance is the final stage where we hope to stay. But understanding or just even being exposed to this model is really helpful to a lot of people, because it takes some of the guilt away. Because a lot of this is guilt, isn't it? Like, don't we all feel really guilty about if we're not doing this enough, if we're not doing that enough. And a lot of us feel guilty if we're not exercising regularly, and we think we should be. But again, if thinking about it, reframing it to, well, maybe I'm just not ready yet, and it's okay. Maybe I'll be ready 6 months from now. So how can we overcome the obstacles to kind of getting through those stages? The first one is mindset. And I believe that we are our worst obstacle ourselves. Our own mind is a lot of times the biggest obstacle to getting an exercise plan off the ground. All or none is the biggest one, the biggest mindset problem. Does anybody feel that way sometimes? And that is also kind of encouraged by the media and by, you know, things that we read and success, even success stories that we see, you know, on TV. We see the success stories, these people who lost 40 pounds. Well, I can't do that. Well, if I can't do that, I might as well order another hamburger, you know. Or I might, you know, we think that if I'm not going to join a gym and go for an hour 3 times a week, I might as well not do anything. Or if I'm not going to do whatever it is, fill in the blank, I might as well not do it at all. I mean, almost all of us are susceptible to that way of thinking at times. And it really applies to exercise. If we're waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect block of time, does it come? We keep thinking, well, when I have time, or when this project is over, whatever this project is, then I'll start. So what happens when that project is over? There's another project. And then, or there's all the stuff that was on the back burner while you were working on that project. So life is going to keep happening. Things are going to keep coming up. So unless we look at what can we do during all this stuff, then we'll never get to it. In fact, business travelers, how many of you travel on business? Very much? None of you? Not very many? At Marriott, obviously, I had a lot of business travelers there, and this one guy was like, well, I can't get on an exercise program because I'm traveling 60% of the time. So, you know, whenever I do my plan, I'm not even here. I said, well, we need to, you know, create a plan for when you're traveling. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, well, you know, whatever your normal routine is like, that's what you have to take into account instead of best case scenarios. Because, I mean, best case scenario isn't very often. We're also, a lot of times, a lot of us struggle with pessimism. If you've been around the block too many times with exercise and weight loss, you just feel, you know, like, why is this time going to be any different? And in fact, one of my favorite phrases is, what's going to make this time different? That's the slogan on my website. That's the slogan in a lot of the materials that I write, is, you know, talking to people, my clients, my one-on-one clients in coaching and different things, is asking someone, what is going to make this time different? You know, and really to actually think about it. All right, you know, for some people, it might be that something has happened, a catastrophic thing that really kind of flicked a light bulb in their head. You know, a loved one who had a heart attack at an early age, and all of a sudden that scared them. It might be that. It might be accumulation of things that kind of built up over time that finally was like, got to a tipping point. That's one of my favorite books too, Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. When things kind of build up over time. Weighing the costs and benefits. A lot of times with exercise, the costs and the obstacles are in our face all the time, as far as lack of time and all those other ones on that slide. But the benefits sometimes seem kind of intangible and far away, and you know, they're not immediate and you can't really see them. So a lot of times we don't tend to focus on them enough, and it's all about the cost or the obstacles. So when we can start building up those lists, the kinds of things in our mind, they're really going to make it worth it. Like, what's going to really be worth it for me? It's kind of like one of the phrases I use also is a personally compelling motivator. If you don't have a motivator that is personally really compelling, then nothing is going to stick, no matter what. So it's kind of like, how can you find that? What's going to be personally compelling for you? You know, again, it's a lot of this stuff, the work really starts in the brain. The click factor, I call that, you know, what happens when all of a sudden it is just something that you do. Like, you know, something goes, click. Oops, I had a feeling that was going to happen. Click. And for a while, until you get to that point, if you're exposing yourself to more messages that help, you kind of get to that point. Now, the ownership and priority, man, I just can't get right button there. Anticipating and strategizing the obstacles. The thing about the ownership and the priorities is that's the tough love approach, because I find that we've got both approaches, right? We want to figure out what's going to work for us, and then we also want to say, well, I know people, there are people in my situation who are exercising regularly, and I think sometimes, well, all right, the President of the United States exercises regularly, he's busy. I have clients who are single moms, and they're making it work. I had a client once who, a single man, who could not get to the gym because he had too many work projects. He's like, well, I've just got one fire to put out after another. I just can't get to the gym. Okay? And then guess what happened one time when he went? There was this girl there who he thought, wow, I think I'd like to meet her. Guess what happened to his schedule? All of a sudden, he was able to get to the gym 3 times a week. But again, the point is that, we can say whatever we want, but when it comes down to it, we make time for the things we make time for. Right? We make time for the things we make time for, period. So, so if you combine that phrase with getting rid of the all or none, then the marriage of those two things is what makes things work. Because it doesn't have to be the gym an hour 3 times a week. It just has to be some kind of common thread that keeps it not completely off the radar completely. So that when you do have a big project, you might skip a few days, but you might not skip 2 weeks, or it might not be an hour, it might be 20 minutes, or it might not be the gym at all. It might just be a few crunches and push-ups before you go to work, but it's something that keeps it kind of part of your life, just kind of a little bit. Or if too many days go by that you haven't even taken a walk, it's like you're dying to get out there and at least get a quick walk in. So it's just, again, it's trying to get it back on the map in some way. So it doesn't have to be a lot, and then it rises up on the priority list. Now, we're going through phases in our time here. So that was kind of the motivational phase, okay, about thinking about the mindset. Now, the next little phase here is about just some of the quick, down and dirty fitness kind of informational points that will be helpful for you. And then the third phase will be the specific stuff for while you're actually at your desk. Okay, so Deskersise means, for people who spend a lot of time at their desks, but the whole content of today, I hope you didn't think was going to be everything you could do while you were actually sitting at your desk. So anyway, there are 5 major components of fitness. And the reason why I wanted to put them up there in bullets is a lot of times, again, for people who come to me, clients, they say they want to get fit. Well, we want to make sure we know, well, what kind of fitness, because there are different things to do for different aspects of fitness. But all 5 of those components of fitness get plunked into 3 categories of exercise. And so to have a well-rounded exercise routine, it will be valuable to have something from each of those 3 categories. Something aerobic, which is continuous movement, all those examples up there, to help your heart and to help lose weight, if that's what you want to do, and to help your muscles become, have muscular endurance, increase your bone density. Weight training is just as valuable. A lot of times people think that aerobic exercise is the most valuable exercise. I like to argue for weight training, not because I think it's more important than aerobics, but I think that it gets the short end of the stick a lot of times. And especially for women. I like to call it the secret weapon for women, because women almost have more to gain from it than men, because they're starting with a lower percentage of muscle on their body, pound for pound. If you take a 150-pound man and a 150-pound woman, or let's say you take 100 men who weigh 150 pounds and 100 women who weigh 150 pounds, and you figure out how much muscle versus fat they have, pound for pound, the group of men will hands down have a higher percentage of muscle for that 150 pounds. And for whatever weight you are, you take men and women of the same weight, the man will almost always have more muscle genetically. So women, can benefit from increasing their muscle. They can benefit metabolically and also aesthetically in lots of different ways, and in also the ways that help protect your joints. Flexibility is the third category, and that's also a little step, the kind of like ignored little aspect of fitness, because we don't see any improvements in our appearance when we stretch. So a lot of times we tend to not do that as much. But there are sometimes just a few quick stretches that you can do that would make a big difference. And doesn't have to be time consuming. I have 4 kind of levels of exercise. In fact, these are the same 4 that actually are in my book, and I kind of condensed the message for you here because, again, the whole premise behind the levels of exercise came about when I was working at Marriott. Because, in fact, when I was at Marriott, I had a seminar similar to this, and what I called it was the bare minimum of exercise. Because one time, someone came and sat down with me and said, you know, can you just tell me the bare minimum that I need to do to be healthy? Because I'm not really interested in being Joe Fitness. I'm not interested in, you know, having Body Beautiful. I just want to do the bare minimum I need to do. And you know, it occurred to me that I was, you know, a lot of people aren't as blunt, you know, in the way they say it in a more roundabout way, but that's what a lot of people really want. They just want to do something that is, again, going to help give them the benefits of exercise without necessarily being a fanatic about it. You know, you don't have to be an exercise fanatic to get the benefits of exercise. So this one is the entry-level plan, the no exercise clothes required plan. So if you don't, again, it depends on where you see yourself and the different levels. You can slide up and you can slide down the levels. You may or may not be here, okay? But if this is where you feel like you're at, then, you know, bravo for you because you're doing something. And it can lead to more later. But even if it never leads to more, this is a great place to be. It's a whole lot better than not trying to do any activity. I bet a lot of you might already be doing this kind of stuff because of this campus that you work on. Right? Is there a lot of walking in your daily lives based on where you work? So accumulating at least 30 minutes of activity on most days. The parameters are very kind of general and vague on purpose because it's just about increased activity on most days, doing what you can. But one of the things that helps this the most, helps this really happen, is if you can get a little bit systematic about it. Because if we leave things too vague, it never really happens. So if you could outline, I think I'll have this more specifically in a couple slides ahead. But okay, so if this is the plan I say I'm at, so what are maybe 2 or 3 things I'm going to do to make this happen? Am I always going to park in a certain parking lot that's a little farther away? Am I always going to, you know, take the stairs? Am I always, whatever it is, instead of just kind of being a general vague thing out there, if you can make it somehow more accountable and more specific, then that's what matters. Because the thing about taking the stairs, how many of you have, obviously you've heard that before, right? Take the stairs instead of the elevator, park further away. But what do we usually think in our head when we hear that stuff? Come on, be honest. What do we think? Does anybody think, oh, that's not going to make a difference? Am I the only one who has that in the back of my head? So what if I circle for the closest spot? So what? None of you think that? Maybe you guys should be leading this and I should be saying that, right? That, again, is the mindset that a lot of people get trapped in because, in fact, that kind of activity does add up. There are research studies that show how the change, in fact, I think this dates the research study. Back when, before computers, talking about typewriters, and of course the term secretary shows you this was like a study in the 60s also. Okay, they took a bunch of secretaries and they had half of them on manual typewriters for a certain amount of hours a day. The other half used electric typewriters for the same amount of hours a day. And they calculated the hours they had to spend on these different pieces of equipment, and at the end of a year, the manual typewriter women weighed 5 pounds less than the group on the electric typewriters. So it's talking about just daily activity, how much it adds up. The next level up, the exercise clothes bare minimum, is 3 things from each of the 3 categories. But first one is walking, so for cardio. Okay, crunches, which is just one muscle group, your stomach muscles. That's helping your core strengthening here. A lower back stretch, which is lying on your back and pulling your knees to your chest. Doing something like that 3 times a week has phenomenal fitness benefits. You're getting one of the most important muscles to strengthen. You're getting one of the most important muscles to stretch, because how many of us have lower back pain? None of us have lower back pain. In fact, there is a lot to be said for just crunches and a lower back stretch as a #1 solution for lower back pain. Because a huge percentage, like 75% of back pain, is due to the stomach muscles being weak and the back muscles being tight. Okay? So that can help that hands down. So does this seem like something that would be a feasible level of exercise for someone to possibly add into their lives? Okay? And this is something that doesn't require a gym membership. Starts and ends at your front door. If you wanted to go one level up from that, you can build in more aerobic exercise, like 20 minutes instead of 15. You can also vary the type of exercise. Someone might want to do something more intense, or might want to use like an elliptical machine, or a stationary bike, or a treadmill. And then a short circuit of weight training exercises 2 to 3 times a week. Now, the first level was just crunches. But the next level up, to do just a basic weight training routine where you go through, like there's 10 muscle groups, if you hit 1 exercise per muscle group, that can be done in less than 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. For this kind of routine, it's best if you have at least dumbbells. Like I have a routine that I teach people for home. A lot of times involves having dumbbells, a big exercise ball, and elastic tubing. Okay? And that's one way to do a weight training routine. There are also exercises that can be done that just use your body weight, like push-ups and pull-ups and crunch. There are things that can be done with just your body weight, but there's more flexibility when you have at least a little bit of equipment. And then this is like a full-fledged program, would be varying all the way from 20 up to 60 minutes of aerobic exercise. This is for people who are in this category. They probably don't really need, they already have things up and running, so we're okay with that. They don't really need as much of the assistance. But this is a lot of times what people think of when they think of exercise. So showing the progression up to this stage is really what was more important than actually showing the fact that I'm showing this routine here. Okay, back to things you can do during your workday. The sneaking exercise into your daily routine, what I was talking about before about the example of manual typewriters versus electric typewriters, and now thinking of the other ways that little things add up. How many of us send emails when we could possibly pop into someone's office in person? A lot of times we send emails. I remember sending emails to someone who worked like 2 cubes away from me. Or at home, piling things at the bottom of the steps to bring up later. What are some other things that, if we look at our daily habits, what are some ways that we can actually be more active rather than save energy? A lot of times we accidentally look for ways to save energy. Yeah.
I just did this yesterday and today, like walking up the escalators in the metro. It really kills, and you can take a break halfway through, like just do half
Yeah.
a week and then try to do 3/4.
Yeah, how many of you take the metro on a regular basis? Probably more than a few. That's a great tip. All those kind of things, whatever is part of your daily life, looking for the ways that you could be a little more active rather than a little bit less active. Standing rather than sitting. Standing burns 50% more calories than sitting. The act of standing. Not even walking around. So if we're talking about this 1 hour, that if you're here for a 1 hour seminar and you're burning, like a person who weighs about 150 pounds might burn about 1 calorie a minute. Okay, so if they're sitting. So if you burn 60 calories in this hour to sit, let's say. It might be a little more, it might be a little bit less, depending on how much you weigh and how fast your metabolism is. But if you were standing for the hour, you'd be burning 90 calories for that hour. Now for 1 hour, talking about an extra 30 calories, does that matter? No, right? What about people who have jobs or lifestyles that require a lot of standing or a lot of walking? Someone who's a delivery person or a hairstylist, someone who's spending a lot of their time standing or walking is already going to be burning more calories all during the day. So we can, so each of us looks for ways that if you're, this title is for desk professionals, right? Busy professionals. If you spend a lot of time at your desk, if you can look for ways to get up more often, it will make a difference. How many of you have ever worn a pedometer? Those are fun little gadgets for having a little challenge with yourself about. Those of you who haven't raised your hand, if you know what they are at least, little things you can wear on your hip that tell you how many steps you've taken. And one of my middle son's gym teacher, they had a challenge one week, and they had to wear them and see how much they could do. So he was running, he was doing laps around the outside of the house, and he was jogging in place. He was running up and down the stairs, and he was trying to see how high he could get it to go. And I was like, this child does not need a pedometer. He's already hyperactive. But it was a good thing for for awareness for these kids to kind of realize how much they were moving and how much they weren't. And so that it was a challenge at the teachers versus the students, like for this 1 week. Linking exercises to existing daily rituals, that's what we're going to talk about next. That can be a really valuable technique because it's hard to remember things. One of the questions that was from the beginning was ways you can increase your circulation and ways you can decrease stress throughout the day. Well, linking some exercises to something else that's already a part of your day can be a method to do that. Because how many of us already have enough stuff to remember? It's really hard to have more, one more thing we should be doing, one more thing we have to try to remember. So if something becomes second nature because it's linked to something else we're already doing anyway, then we end up to not have to remember it anymore. Okay, here are some examples. Doing crunches. I don't know if this will work for you at work, but it might work on your home computer. But some of you might have enough privacy to not mind doing this. That when you turn your computer on in the morning, what do most of us do? We stare at the screen, we just sit there and we stare at it, and we wait for it. So how about popping on the floor and doing some crunches? Like that's your routine. When you push boot up, you get on the floor and do some crunches. That's just one silly example. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Crunches are like partial sit-ups. Sit-up is the term we used to use when it was like coming all the way up. And because our abdominal muscles start up here and they attach down here, they don't actually cross the hip joint. That coming that last range of motion all the way up where you're bending your hip joint is not valuable for the abdominal muscles. You don't need that range of motion because your abdominal muscles don't cross the hip joint. That's why we just crunch halfway up. Yeah.
I might add, if other people aren't aware, exercise mats are great. You just put them on your carpet or your floor. Gives you support and it's very comfortable. And you can do crunches and push-ups on exercise mats. You get them at any sports.
That's right. That's a
enough
a little bit of foam.
That's very comfortable. Doesn't matter what you put on top of them. They work great.
That's right. And that's wonderful. And so the idea, again, is that you don't have to be in exercise clothes to do this. You don't have to be doing your whole routine or nothing at all. You can pop down and do some crunches. Or how about push-ups? I have another colleague or client who I was doing some phone coaching with, and she decided that one of the things she was going to do was after she got out of the shower, she does push-ups on her bathroom vanity. That's just what she does. That's when she does them, and it's just her habit now. She doesn't have to remember it. She just does that. It doesn't take any extra time of the day, from the day. As somebody else I know was talking about an exercise ball. They leave it in the family room, so when they're watching TV, they're sitting on it and just doing some moving around, get some core strengthening right there. And then maybe during the commercials, you can do something that doesn't involve having to see the TV. You can pop on the floor and do a couple things. But again, it's little things that are better than nothing. If you can fight that mental urge to say, oh, that's not good enough, I'll wait until I decide to actually do a whole routine. But just doing a little bit, because that gets it on the brain. That's the challenge. Once it's kind of in your brain and you've done a few things, then you might end up saying, hey, maybe I will do a little bit more. That wasn't so bad. It kind of grows. Starting small and letting it grow. One of my other phrases, I have a lot of favorite phrases, is that habit is more important than content. Because once you have habit, content can grow, evolve, change, but the best content in the world means nothing without habit. Habit is what gets us results. Squats when you're with the dishwasher, or you could think of, anyone else have any examples of things they could do that just link an exercise to something you already do? Yeah.
You mentioned TV commercials. You could do stretching exercise. You could do the twist, like the popular dance in the early 1900s.
Right.
Helps your ribcage, helps your waist, so just, hands over the head and
right.
Twirls of the arms back and forth. Takes a moment, but something's moving.
And circulation. See, that's the point again. When we're sitting, we spend so much time sitting that any opportunity to get up and move around is going to be good for your, to get your muscles moving and get your circulation going, because that's what's going to get more oxygen flowing around. And talking about stress and mental capacities also. We feel like we can concentrate better at work. We feel like we have, we can do better when we have more blood flow and more oxygen circulating. So the thing about, another example during your workday would be, I know people who set timers on their computer, for the clock, it goes off at certain intervals, that's their time to get up and do a couple stretches or get up and do a few things. So, because if you get engrossed in a project, you're not going to think of it. You're not going to, you're going to get kind of lost in your project. So if you have a timer or an alarm that goes off for when your stretch break times are, which is what we're getting to. Phase 3 here. Good habits for the desk bound. And after I wrote that title, I was thinking I didn't mean to give us a visual. We've got this, we've handcuffed to our desks. Although some of us might feel that way sometimes. We're working on a deadline. So the first thing, it's again going to help us feel well. And you've probably come to a seminar before on this one topic about ergonomics and sitting. Very many of you know much about that. The best thing you can do for sitting ergonomically is thinking about the 90-degree rule. Is that you want most joints in your body to be right around 90 degrees. Elbows, hips, knees, where your back is. So you want everything to be in 90 degrees as much as possible. So whenever we're slouching, or whenever our feet our legs are dangling, versus maybe sometimes putting a step stool under our desk so that it raises our knees up so that we have more of a 90-degree angle, then that's going to feel better for our back. And our elbows, again, 90 degrees. Sometimes our keyboards are too high or too low. So looking at our necks. Here's another test that helps with our neck posture. Put 2 fingers right in front of your lips, almost touching. And now pull way back ooh. And now release that just a little bit. That's where our necks should be. And look where your fingers are for all of us. Typically, most of us, at rest, have our necks, our whole head is far forward, and good posture is really further away. We tend to be a little bit forward. So that's just an example about, again, just things that feel better at the desk. Getting up and walking around, and the alarm on your computer is one of the most helpful things, because unless we can do that. Now, incorporating the exercises you can actually do at your desk can be helpful, and then doing the other regular exercises would be the other components. So all of these 4 big bullet points here would be categories of ways that we can have better habits for being at our desk a lot of the time. So definitely trying to get up when you can, doing exercises at your desk that you can do, exercising on a regular basis, and then when we're sitting, making sure that we're sitting in as ergonomically comfortable position as possible. Now, those exercises we can do at your desk fall into 3 categories. Stretches is the main category that we hear of, we think of a lot. But there are some muscle strengthening exercises that we can do at our desk as well. And the last one, I was wondering if you guys would laugh at this or not, but I know people who do this. Have you seen those little teeny-weeny bicycle things that you can put under your desk? And Amazon, or anywhere online, or any sports store. But they're just tiny little pedals. And that can increase circulation while you're sitting at your desk.
I tried one of those once,
Yeah?
but it was too low.
It was too low?
Unless I lowered my chair, which then I wasn't at the right height for my keyboard, it didn't work.
I wonder if you could have put it up on something.
That would have stayed stable. Would have been
Like a big, I'm wondering if,
I took it home and I use it sometimes when I'm sitting at home, and I can slouch back. And
Right.
It didn't work under the desk.
I wonder if that would matter based on how tall somebody is or their leg length. And
Yeah, I think it needs
so,
to be an adjustable.
yeah. But that's definitely something that can work for some people. So now, as far as the actual stretches and strengthening exercises, we are going to actually try these, so that when you get back to your desk and you want to do them later, you'll be more likely to remember. I did put some descriptive phrases under the ones that would be most needing that, but let's go through them. The first one, opening and closing your fingers. If you really go like this, see how good that feels? Because, you feel like, wow, I didn't realize my fingers could really do that. It's like, wow, you really feel the circulation going to your fingers. So, and it's really, because I see all of you doing it with such force, and that's what it takes. Because I'm not talking about going like this. Which, of course, is making me think of this. I forget what movie I was watching with my daughter recently when someone says, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I want to see. So, okay, wrist rolls. Okay? Because, again, our wrists, how often are our poor wrists in this position? Too much. Okay, but just wrist rolls. Ear to shoulder. So when you hold it, in fact, not just flipping side to side, but the minute you go like this, don't you feel this muscle, your sternocleidomastoid? Other side. And you know, a lot of times when we're doing these kind of things, we think, wow, that does feel good. I should do that more often. And then, but we never really, you know, we don't remember to. We don't do so. Again, thinking about how we can link things or how we can have visual reminders. You could put like, I know people who have put like a little sticky on their computer screen on the top that says something like stretch. Or, you know, there are all kinds of, you know, sometimes a visual reminder will be something good for you. Okay, head turns side to side. So again, just kind of looking to the side. You stretch the same neck muscles in a little bit different way. And looking the other way. And shoulder circles. Okay, shoulder circles. These feel so good. Now, of course, you could do, you know, all the way around if you've got the room. You know, I don't know if you guys are going to smack someone next to you, but yeah, you could do. Okay. And then shoulder shrugs is just, again, up and down. Yeah. Upper back stretch is when you clasp your hands in front of you and you kind of round your back. Does that feel good? And then when you bring it all the way up overhead, and then I like to let go and then grab one wrist and tug that up nice and high. And when you do that, what you want to avoid is collapsing over. That's not really what you're really pulling up. And then the other one, pull that one up nice and high. And then coming down, you can have your hands behind your head and pull your elbows back. You feel that in your chest. Anyone, I hope nobody hit anybody in the face with that one, right? And again, this is for people, you can also do it this way, but of course this is when you have more room, is arms wide open. Biceps, pressing your hands out through the heel of your hand, like put some pressure and really push out. When you push out like that, do you feel it right through here? And we don't commonly think of a way to stretch the bicep because our arms are always hanging down, but not just let them hang down, but push them down and out. A couple more. Tricep stretch. If you have your arms up overhead, you pull on this elbow and pulling back. You feel that? And the other one, just pull back here. Good. Okay, now here's a couple more challenging ones. Hip and back stretch. I'm going to bring a chair up here. These are some of the seated ones. So when you're starting off and just crossing one leg over, and just really, you can start off either just pulling it towards you or you put the opposite elbow and just kind of turn yourself. Now, some of you are turning the same way as that knee is pointing. You don't want to do that. You want to turn. If your knee is going to the left, then you want to face to the right. Okay? So go that way. You're not turning the same. If you went like this, look at my leg and my body. You're not going to turn the same way as the leg is going. Okay, if the leg goes this way, then you go this way. But you know what? It's actually going to feel good both ways, isn't it? So again, there's no wrong thing. This feels good too, doesn't it? You could go both ways, and then you wouldn't be wrong, right? You would have gotten both in. So if that stressed you out, then just go both directions, okay? Because it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you to go this way. Okay. Hamstring stretch. Okay, this one you have to scooch up on your chair a little bit. And you can start with just one leg out and just bend forward. You feel that on the back of your... That's the hamstring, back of the thigh. That poor muscle is at a lot of risk. People pull hamstrings all the time. Those muscles are so tight on us. Let's do the other one just because it felt good, didn't it? We don't leave ourselves uneven.
Are you supposed to go up with your heel? You go front like that, or you supposed to leave foot flat?
You know what? You want to have just your heel, just like your, the floor is like, yeah, just put the heel out. And then here's ankle circles. Or flex and point. I'm just circling my ankle around.
You go the other direction.
Yeah, you can go both directions. That's good. Flexing and pointing. Okay, and here's the last one. I think you actually have enough room to do this in front of you. Your feet are at least shoulder width apart. And you might need to scoot yourself to the edge of your chair. And then you really just drop your head and shoulders and round forward. Feeling kind of like a rag doll hanging all the way down? Does that feel good? In fact, anything that puts your back in a rounded position is going to stretch your back muscles. Okay? So that's why we were doing this one before, or rounding forward. Or the other example I gave you as far as when you might be doing the crunches, if you're lying on the floor and you're pulling your knees into your chest, anything, again, that rounds that lower back is going to be a good stretch. Okay, let's see here. Where are we next? Strengthening exercises that you can do at your desk. Okay, isometrics. The word isometric just means a contraction that you hold and that the muscle doesn't change length. Okay, a good example of an isometric would be if I tried to push this wall away. Ooh, actually, this moves. But something, an immovable object, if I want to knock this wall down. If I try as hard as I can, is this wall going to move? But it doesn't mean I'm not doing any work, right? I'm still going to get tired. My muscles are still contracting like crazy. Okay? But my muscles aren't changing length. If you have a dumbbell and you're doing a bicep curl like this, okay, that is the muscle changing length while it's contracting. But the muscle isn't changing length during isometric. You're just kind of squeezing it. So we can, while you're sitting, you can suck your stomach in, contract your stomach muscles and release. And the old gluteals, right? We've all done that before, right? You can do it while you're driving. Contract those gluteals. It's like, oh, there they are. Remember those muscles, right? Those muscles are there. I talked about crunches on the floor or push-ups on the floor of the desk, sitting on an exercise ball instead of a chair. Just sitting on it, because when you sit on an exercise ball, yes, it requires enough balance that your muscles have to contract to stabilize you. So your muscles are going to be a little bit more engaged than they would be just sitting in a chair. Now, I could, right here in my suit, get on the floor and do some crunches and push-ups, but you don't need me to demonstrate that, right?
I need to see a crunch.
You need to see a crunch. Okay.
Because I do the old-fashioned.
Here's a crunch. Anybody who needs to see, you can come around. Okay, so you're lying on the floor. Your feet are going to be flat. I don't used to do them in these shoes. Wow, it's hard to do that. Okay. Here we go. Don't make fun of my nail polish. All right, ready? Crunching up and down. So you're lifting your head, shoulders, and shoulder blades, then back down again. Head, shoulders, shoulder blades, back down again. You don't go up to your knees at all. And look how I'm looking at the ceiling. Now I'm looking that way. Then I'm looking at the ceiling. What I'm not doing is thrusting my chin to the ceiling like you see sometimes. I'm also not digging my chin into my chest like you see sometimes. I'm keeping my head and neck neutral and going along the same range of motion as the rest of my body is. And it's not like jerky, okay, but just kind of nice and strong. Up and down. I can barely see my elbows. You don't want to be tugging on them and pulling in like this. Keep the elbows mostly back. Up and down. Okay? Okay. Then here's for the push-ups, what you want to do. I'm on a cord here. You're going to be in a strong position down and then up. Down. Well, if you can do them on your feet, that's great. That's more for men. Stronger women, once they build up, can do them on their feet. But actually, there are levels of push-ups that you can do to build up to that. Some people, even just on their knees, it's too intense to keep their body straight. So you can do them like this. You can start off just kneeling and lowering just kind of your head and shoulders. Then you can walk your hands out and tip your body forward even more. And then you can go all the way out to a straight body. What you don't want to do is kind of the ones that look like a snake, like you're slithering and coming up off the floor, or you're kind of not going all the way down. You want to make sure you're doing the full range of motion for whatever level you can do. So let's see here. Running out of time here. Let's have one or two more slides, I think. So where do you go from here? How do you take information that we talked about today and actually apply it to your lives? Because that's the most important thing. I mean, none of the information is going to be worth it. None of the, you're spending your time here is not going to be worth it unless you can apply this information into your lifestyle in some way. So one of the best things to do with that is see if you can pick one idea, one thing you might want to try. Or two things. Write them down, put them on your calendar or your list of things to do or whatever. Just one or two things and see if we can get it to become more habit. It's important to remember that a fit lifestyle is progressive. Again, same message as there is no all or none. It doesn't have to be that way. Start with a little bit. It will grow over time. So establishing the habit is much more important than the content, as I said before. Last couple things again about motivation is that exercise is important, which all of you I know agree with that. I'm not telling you something that you didn't already probably think that it was important, but the reason why it doesn't happen is that it's never going to be urgent, each specific exercise session. That's why we have so much trouble. So if you protect it on your schedule by actually writing it in, or sometimes actually saying to someone, no, I actually have something to do at 12 o'clock. How about if I meet with you at 2? Or whatever it is, whether it's during your personal hours or during, some of you might do it at lunchtime or before work or after work, somehow, not always giving it up. Because a lot of us, if somebody else needed to meet with us or wanted something from us, if we already had something planned that involved somebody else, we might say, no, I can't meet with you at that time. But if it was something we were just doing for ourselves, we'd be more likely to cancel what we had to do that was just for ourselves, and in favor of what the other person was asking of us. So it's just, again, a different way of thinking occasionally. Talked about avoiding the all or none thinking, and also categorizing yourself. So a lot of times we categorize ourselves as being an exerciser or a non-exerciser. Oh, that person's a jock or a fitness freak, and I'm not, and I'm not the exercising kind. I mean, my sister, who's a year younger than me, she's just not an exerciser. She doesn't like to sweat. She doesn't own any exercise clothes. It's just not her. And she doesn't even weigh in the triple digits. She's probably 97 pounds, so she doesn't think she needs it because she's never needed to lose weight in her life. So, but is weight loss the only reason to exercise? No, it's not going to protect her heart. It's not, so there's different things. So she does stuff now, which is great, but it's just, again, it's about what you can do that still fits with who you see yourself as. There are things that you can do. And it is an investment in your health. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in short-term goals that we lose sight of the fact that it doesn't have to be about short-term goals. It can be just that, hey, this is the way I'm living my life now. This is just kind of what I do. It's just part of my habit. In fact, I have a poster hanging in my workout room that says there is no finish line. And it shows a picture of somebody exercising. And that's my view about exercise. I'm not doing it to win any races. I've been pretty much plateaued for a really long time. I do my same kind of routine. It's good to vary it up sometimes, but it doesn't have to be about people who are. Fitness is not only for the people who are entering 10K races or have some, even plan to do some 3-day walk for a disease or something. It can be just little bits that fit in who you see yourself as. Because nobody can exercise for you. I mean, this is the one thing you cannot delegate. Is that true? Yeah. And what people have in common, who are successful. If you look at any group of people who are successful at something and say, hey, what do all these people have in common? So people who are exercising regularly, who are making it work, what do they have in common? These people have something that strings the days and weeks together, because when people are just going it alone, they're more likely to not have it work. So it could be a class or a friend or a personal trainer, but something that strings things together so that they don't feel like they're just hanging out there, and then something came up, and then something else came up, and next thing you know, they were off track. It has to be something they enjoy. I mean, you can only take so much medicine. I mean, we have to have something that we enjoy. A backup plan is so important. Like I said, you might have what you do most of the time, but if you don't have a backup plan and something gets you off track, then you end up being off track for longer, and then it's hard to get back. And then the click factor, what I talked about before about priority. At some point, it will hopefully get to that point where you're like, wow, I guess I do miss it. I didn't exercise for like a week and a half, and I can't wait to do it again. So how do you get started? Making the commitment, but examining that readiness to change, and then starting slow. Recognize you just have to get there, as a first goal, and the content is less important. When you wake up, this is what I heard in a seminar one time. When we wake up, what's the first thing that enters your mind?
Getting to work.
God. That supposedly the first thing that enters our mind when we open our eyes is the most important thing to us. So do we wake up saying, I can't wait to work out? When am I going to work out today? Okay, anticipating those roadblocks and trying to strategize around them, because it's, again, we have these roadblocks that are going to come up, and if we really thought about it, we can anticipate, well, it's because I'm usually tired after work. Oh, it's because I'm usually in a rush in the morning, or I'm not a morning person. Think about what are the roadblocks for you. And I think I said you can do it. What are you waiting for? Oh, this is not the one I put. This is theirs. You have a seminar evaluation in your packet. So it's very important to them that you complete that, and you can leave it here. They also have, I think, a flyer inside your packet that has some other programs available to you. So thank you. Do I have a pen? Thank you. I don't have a pen. Sorry. And if anyone has any questions, I can hang out for a few minutes.